coffee's hot.
Sounds like a you problem.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 8. Yeah, Evan doesn't know anymore either. I beat the system. Season 2, Episode 8, Coal Iron Podcast. We are joined today by Josh. It's either Porterfield.
Porterfield. I feel like you should know by now.
With as much as I have to write your name down. Josh is our welder here at Coal Iron Works. He is also a knife maker and has recently got into a little bit of tool making and really the blacksmith experience versus the bladesmith experience. Josh has come to one IBA meeting about 3 to 5 hours late.
I think it was closer to 5.
As I turned the forge off, he texted me and said, "Hey, I'm about 45 minutes away. Is it still cool if I come?"
You should have said no. That was a valid option.
So, but Josh is fun to have around the forge because he gives really good insight on what it was like coming up. I mean, really with no direct influences besides the internet in bladesmithing, and then being able to join our team and have the influence of people like Logan, who's more on the knife making side, David, who's definitely in the knife making side. So you kind of have the stark removal versus the hand forged. And then David now does a lot of stark removal too, but he kind of came up in the hand forged scene. Right. And then you're looking at me all funny and wonky.
Are you saying stark removal?
Stock removal. I have a huge loogie stuck at the top of my back of my throat. So I'm going to sound
out before.
Dude, I tried. You watched me.
I did. That's why I'm shocked.
So I'm going to sound weird this whole podcast. If it sounds like I have a cold, I don't. I just have a loogie. So, anywho, you got people like that that you got to come and join and work with, and people like Nathan and Nigel and myself that kind of stray away from the sharp things.
Right.
So, before we jump into your adventure, your journey as a maker, as Nathan would say, let's talk about how you got hooked up at Coal because it's kind of a cool story.
Yeah, it was weird.
So I made a post that was pretty heavily inspired by Silas at Tiny Town Forge that said, drop out of school and make forging presses. Yeah. And I posted it like 4 or 5 days in a row. I was looking to hire somebody to take a little bit of load off of Evan. I was looking to hire a welder. And I think one more person in my assembly. And I ended up only hiring a welder, shifting some other pieces around, but to this day, it's probably the most effective ad campaign that I've ever run off of my personal Instagram. So give us your point of view and how you got linked up and what the story was there.
Yeah, so I was at showing some knives at an art show downtown in this rundown. I think it was like a milk bottling plant. It was weird, but some guy came up to me. He was like, "Oh, you make knives?" I was like, "I do." And he's like, "I know these guys that started a company and they like make presses. You should talk to them." And I was like, "Oh, thanks. All right, whatever." And then I was just like, after that, I was sitting at the bar at Imbibe. If anybody lives in India has been to Imbibe, it's the worst place on the planet.
Cheap pool.
Yeah. And I was sitting there, it was like 2 a.m. I went on the website and I was like, or the Instagram, and it said, "Quit your job and start making presses." And I was like, that is exactly what I want to do.
Oh, that's great. I thought it was drop out of school. Tiny Towns is drop out of school. I really wanted it to be drop out of school.
Yeah, that's the one. I saw that and I immediately just sent in my resume in the middle of the night, and 2 days later I got a call and I was like, oh, heck yeah. I have not seen that man who said he was your guys' friend since. So he kind of just like danced into my life, like threw an opportunity at me and like danced away, and I'll take it, you know? But yeah.
So one of us owes him dinner.
One of you
for
guys.
A successful employee. No, if it's one of you or me, probably more you.
Right.
Since you've made a lot of money off of the circumstance.
Exactly. So. Yeah, it was really interesting though. I swear to God, he didn't know the name of you guys though. He said you were his friend.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Okay.
Yeah, that friend, we'll keep him anonymous because that's more fun. I don't think he would be mad that we talked about him.
Channing or something? I don't know.
that friend is a lot younger than me and Nathan, and was kind of like almost like a little brother for a few years.
Really?
And then kind of dropped out. I would say he was like dad's stepson from his new marriage. You know, like it was like, yeah, he's okay, but we're not real close, you know.
Gotcha.
But he's super cool guy. I got nothing bad to say about him. But he was almost like that same thing in our lives as well, where it was like, oh, here's this guy, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
Just completely. Yeah. So maybe that's just his MO. I know I do that in a lot of people's lives. I don't stick around. I'm not good at the internet. I'm not good at hanging out. So
Me neither.
I have like 2 friends. If I don't work with you and you are never at Nathan's house, then we probably will never see each other. So
Fair enough.
it's kind of my MO. So, but anywho, tell me about the interview process, because I remember you being completely thrown off by every question I asked you, by every scenario I put you in.
It was so weird.
Tell me about the interview process, and then kind of go back and compare it to other interview processes that you've had in the industry.
Yeah.
Because I think we do things a little bit differently as far as being people motivated.
I would say so.
And I come from a background of working for a company that was very, very people motivated. So my interview is based around that. It's not based around technical skill. It's not based around what are your performance numbers. It's like, hey, tell me about something you're super proud of that's not related to this. Right. So what was that interview process like for you? And does your neck still hurt from the whiplash that I saw you visibly get?
I was super confused. Like the second I walked in, I just saw Nigel, who was just a long-haired, just skater dude. And I was like, okay, first of all, that's different from any of the other places I worked, right? So I talked to him and was like, I think I have an interview, and he was like, oh, right on, dude, I'll find someone. And then I turned around and I saw who I now know is Nathan pushing a cart of what I thought was just like gold shavings. And so I was super confused.
Yeah, we make gold here.
Yeah, right. And so we went back for the interview. You were showing me around the shop and everything. And you were asking more like questions about how I would function best as a person here. You really didn't ask, like, what I was doing. Like, you did. You're like, what were you doing? I was like, I welded these things. And you're like, okay, anyways. Just kind of asked about me, how I would fit into the shop. And I thought that was super neat. I really liked that. One thing that I was really shocked by, though, is I brought my hood in. Because, you know, when you're getting a job for welding, you got to take a weld test.
Right.
You're supposed to, at least. I came in, and by the end of the conversation, you were showing me around, and you're like, all right, this went awesome. I was like, so when am I going to do my weld test? And you're like, well, I don't know. We trust you. And I was like, what do you mean you trust me? It's like, all right, this place is so weird. I love this. But yeah, I can't describe. It's one of those things you kind of have to come see the shop to see how different it is. Everyone's super goofy. There's not that dark cloud of machismo over the shop like there is every other place I've ever worked. It's nice. It's nice.
Yeah. So I also remember you saying, you want me to weld something?
Yeah, right.
I'm not a good welder. Like, I will look into the camera right now and I can get 2 things to stick together, but I have this thing where anytime something's going in front of a customer, and you've heard me say it before, my welds will never go in front of on something that goes in front of someone that is paying for it, right? So a customer will never see my welds.
Your welds.
Right. And there's a reason for that. It's because I have a welder that works for me.
Right.
Is accountable to me asking him to do things, right? So I can weld it and it'll stick, or you can weld it and it'll stick way longer and look good.
Hopefully forever.
Right.
In theory.
So when you asked me, when you said, hey, do you want me to weld something? You were like, I could see in your eyes, you were like, I didn't pass. Right. Like, they don't like me.
I was confused.
They're not even having me weld something. I'm clearly not getting this job.
Yeah, I was a little worried because it was so different. Normally, you know, I walk in and it's just like, all right, what have you done? Can you weld this? Blah, blah, blah. What are your certifications? Weld this. All right, here's what you did wrong. Anyways, you got the job. See ya. Nothing like that happened on our interview.
Yeah, I didn't even have your cell built yet. Your cell was built like 2 days before. So if you guys have been to the shop, anybody listening, where you've seen Josh's station, where it has the positioning arm and the now 4 welders.
3.
3. 3 welders. We took the Lincoln out. Mm-hmm. So 3 welders. We have a big weld table. We have a lift table. I mean, it is...
Crane. It's an intense station.
It's intimidating to look at, but also anybody that's toured the shop as a welder has been like, hey, when Josh quits, let me know.
Everything I need.
Yeah. So
many times.
But before that, it was our red tag station. And that means half of our shop almost was all red tag. So my first probably 3 months of working here was on a forklift every day, clearing out that red tag station.
Is it just random
scrapping stuff? I mean, Nathan's not a hoarder, but Nathan hoards stuff.
Yeah.
So
I've come to realize
it's
that.
relics from days past, from shops past, right? You know, we'd have a motor that, oh, I don't know what's wrong with it. Okay, we need to get rid of it for safety's sake. And Nathan would be like, but what if I can fix it?
I kind of get his point of view, and that's my problem.
Yeah.
That's on me.
You are a little bit of a raccoon when it comes to scrap. There's so much mild steel that you can't use for anything on your toolbox.
Saving it for stuff.
But anywho, that was like my first 3 months here was cleaning that area out to make you a weld cell. Because we were taking the welding back from MoFab. MoFab had just moved past a few employees and were moving stuff around. And before they hired another welder for our projects, they said, wouldn't this just be cheaper if you hired a welder? And we were like,
by a lot, yeah.
by a lot. And they were like, and you could get rid of all that crap. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. So I didn't even have your station built until probably like the day before you started.
Really?
Like 2 days before. Yeah. So
I couldn't have welded.
you could have welded in die weld.
Oh, I could have.
Yeah. So I could have had you weld some dies together. So, but, okay. So you get the job, right? We don't have you weld. I didn't have you weld because, when I interview somebody and I ask them about their experience, when I ask them about what they do, one thing that I've always been really good at is I can read your bull crap. So I could read your frustration when you were talking about always being over quantity on your parts. And, you know, I have to weld super fast and you were welding what, 10 millimeter?
It depended on the gauge. 10 millimeter. Oh, that's huge. No, it'd be like 10 to 12 gauge stainless steel
That's
ovens
what I
for the
meant,
most part.
Gauge, not millimeter. But anyway, so yeah, you were, I mean, I could hear your frustration. And as you were walking me through your process, just describing your job to me, even though I'm not a welder, I could read your confidence and I could read your frustration and I could read why you wanted to leave the job. So, it's not something I recommend to anybody ever hiring that way because I've also had a lot of bummers in my hiring career, right? I've been hiring people since I was 18 years old.
Right.
It's a learned trait that I have, but that's why I didn't have you do any welding was because I could read, like I said, what was coming off you at the time. And it led me to, it's going to be very hard to find somebody who knows how to weld in our setting. So I can't go to you in an interview and say, hey man, how efficient are you at welding 1.5 to 1/2 inch with spray transfer?
At a wire the size of your arm.
Yeah, at inch wire, you know, like this is actually cable from the London Bridge that we're welding with, you know, like, there's going to be like 7 people who have, that kind of experience and are willing to come in to what a lot of people would consider an entry level company. Right. So we don't have this long standing history of like, yep, I can go there and retire. Like, so any hoozle, long story short.
What attracted me to the place so much is I wanted to work somewhere exactly like this, where it's like, you know, Nathan's on the floor every day doing stuff. Like it's a business, but it's also like a passion project and it's not just a money mill.
Yeah.
Love that about this place.
We've gotten to the point where Nathan's on the floor more than I am, I feel like.
Yeah, you're just
like
doing random stuff.
I have to go into the office to hear on phone calls. There's times where I have to think really hard, and if we have machines running too loud or somebody's run into problems a couple times on something, it's like I have to literally go hide to get through whatever I need to work on. So there are times where I feel like Nathan's on the floor a lot more than me now, which is cool because that's what Nathan likes. Right. Like the reason I was hired was to take the administrative load off of Nathan. So, anyway, we get through, you're hired, you start. What was that first couple weeks like in comparison to you're at a job where you're beating your head against the wall at every single break because it's so mundane and annoying and frustrating too. I spent the first probably month, at least 4 or 5 hours a day in the cell with you, just hanging out.
Right.
Because obviously I don't know how to weld. So what was that transition like? Did you feel like I didn't trust you? Did you feel like I was trying to give you instruction when I shouldn't have been?
No.
Or did you feel like I was just there to make sure you were comfortable? Because that was the intent. I was like, what does he need? I can't know unless he's there, because so many people are trained in their jobs to just make it work. And my thing to you guys on the floor has always been, what do you need? I'll buy it.
Right.
And it might not be, I might get you a Milwaukee without the W, right? It might be an off-brand.
It's a Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's a Milwaukee or a Roby, right?
Right. As long as they Ugga-Dugga.
Yeah, like I might get you kind of the generic off-brand, but like, what do you need? I'll get it for you.
Right.
So I felt like I couldn't do that in your scenario because you come from this place where it's all about cutting corners, all about cutting costs.
Right.
And so I sat in the cell with you. What was that like?
It was good having you guys there. I felt like it was definitely a hard transition, because I came from every place I've worked. I was welding flatbeds, or I was welding like military storage boxes that they put under LAVs, and not LAVs, but you know what I mean, like military vehicles. And then after that, I was like very numbers oriented, building these really intricate stainless structures. But then it was just kind of like, I don't know, man, just like grind it, put it together, and then blast it all together. It was hard for me to break the, I don't know, like rigidness that I was in. And this place doesn't need the rigidness, really. Yeah,
our design almost requires you to have like a sixth sense of, will it work?
Right. Yeah.
Like a lot of the fit ups that you've come to me with, like, hey man, I'm really unsure about this. My answer is, let's see. Yeah, we'll see if it'll work.
Gotta send it. Yeah.
And it usually does, right? There, like you said, we'll have to grind some stuff or bevel some stuff, or whatever we have to do. Cut apart a lot of tacks. We do that a lot. We cut a lot of tacks.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of times where it passes all your measurements, and then it gets to Tyler and something doesn't work.
Yeah, something's just screwy. We don't know where it came from.
Right. So there is a little bit of like, you have to be able to know the machine, right? You have to have time on our machines to build our machines.
For sure.
Tyler can't build machines without knowing how they function and how they operate. You can't weld together a frame without understanding Tyler's job, because you've also worked in assembly and you helped in CNC. And that's right. I was still building your cell when you started.
Yep.
I made you work in all the other cells, which I would have done anyway. Don't think that I was just trying to buy time.
Right.
But everybody that starts, I have work in all of their not cells, right? So shipping and assembly and stuff. If you don't know what it's like being Tyler, then you have zero ability to have empathy for Tyler in your role. So
yeah, definitely. And Tyler deserves a lot of sympathy. Oh my God, he has to beat his head against the wall in that station too.
Right. There's because you don't do your job.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
we're gonna blame whoever makes the plasma cuts, whoever that is. Whoever.
You. That's you. It's in my mind. It's you.
Boy.
So, and I mean, every business has it. We've experienced some opportunities from our vendors. We've experienced vendor shortages and outages and stuff. But at the end of the day, I think when we get the product to the customer, the important part is that everybody that had a step in the process is really proud of what they did.
Exactly.
And they took the time to have that kind of heartfelt. I've got Tyler down. This is something I can brag on Tyler about. I've got Tyler down to his tolerances on die alignment is less than a 16th. If he's a 16th out, he comes and gets me. When I started, the tolerance was an 1/8.
That's not ideal for
right.
presses. What?
So when I started, it was an 1/8. And we've got it now where if Tyler's out a 16th, he comes and gets me and he's like, hey, and it's not, can I send it? It's how do I fix it?
Right.
He's so obsessed with making sure that it's absolutely correct. Tyler's very slow.
Right.
And at first I was very frustrated with that. And now that my service calls have dropped literally into like a quarter, especially on new presses, I don't think I've gotten a service call on a new press besides shipping issues in probably 6 months.
It's because
genuinely.
He will not move on unless it's perfect.
Right.
And that's phenomenal.
So Shout out Tyler. I don't know if
yeah.
Tyler even listens to the podcast. It's not the Skyrim soundtrack, so probably not.
Play some orchestral music over this. He'll tune in.
But yeah, so your role in the shop is welding, right? Anything that needs welded, which you're overloaded right now. And that's a little intentional because I have these places where I can slow things down and give Tyler the opportunity to be slow and to be a perfectionist and not get overwhelmed because he doesn't have anything pushing against him because you have 15 different projects, right?
Right.
So your role in our shop is as welder, whether it's for a prototype, whether it's for production items, whether it's for everything from dies to the foot treadle handles, literally anything that gets welded now.
Anything.
So what is your least favorite product of ours for you to weld?
The T dies are an absolute nightmare. You got to weld every little bit of it, and it never ends up looking half as pretty as I want it to, and I hate that. I hate it. But everything else, I love doing the fit-ups on like the 25-ton C-frames. Something about so satisfying.
It's very the new system that we have.
Oh, yeah.
Is very satisfying.
It's so
satisfying. I'm a genius.
Oh well. I actually do have to give you this one because I was arguing against you with this, and you were right, and I don't like admitting that. This is your one per year that you get.
Yeah, cool. Well, overall, you've been here for what, a year and a half? You're coming right at a year and a half. What has been your favorite thing about working here? And you don't have to say me, even though it probably is. What has been your favorite thing about working here in any aspect?
There's a few things that I really, really love about this place. One thing is that we kind of briefly mentioned it almost is everyone takes such a pride in making sure that our presses that go out are phenomenal. Like if we get to the end of the line and we realize something's messed up with it, everybody's over there trying to find a reason that it's messed up. How can we fix it? And then we're making sure it's perfect before it gets sent out. I like that. A lot of other places I worked, there's like cover it up, send it. We need numbers. This is so much better. One of my other favorite things is that everyone here is a maker in their own right. You know, like they do something. Some of us aren't blacksmiths, but they do make other things. Like, I don't know, the 3D printing, stuff like that, all that good stuff. And Gage makes his big old stilts that one time. That was cool. And so there's just everybody that you talk to, you can kind of have like a skill share situation with. Like, I'll show you how to do this. You do this for me. Like, I make knives. Nigel hates making knives, but he loves leather. I hate working with leather. So, you know, I do some welding for him. I'll bring him some leather. He'll clean up the edges for me. Like little things like that. That's probably my favorite part.
Okay. Moving on abruptly. Tell me about what got you into knives, what inspired you, and how you got started.
I've always been a little weirdo about knives and swords and like historical weapons and stuff like that. Like even in like kindergarten, first grade, I got good test scores. I would ask my family to take me to antique stores so I could buy pocket knives. It's like always been a thing I've had. And so I was a bartender when COVID hit, and I was like, lost my job. I was like, well, I gotta do something. I don't know, I like knives. I'll go buy a grinder from Harbor Freight with all this government money. So I got me a little 1x30, and I just started, and it was kind of as simple as I want something to do with my hands, and it just clicked, and it fell into place. I'm nowhere near as good as I would like to be yet, but I've just been obsessed with it since. Oh, God. Oh, dude. Shameful.
Deep tracks.
Dude, yeah.
This is what Evan's good at.
July 15th, 2020. Yeah, that was like one of the first knives I made in a forge that was just a fan that I dug a hole in my ground in my driveway. I put coal in there and I got a fan, and I like jury rigged like a garbage bag around it as like a little bellows, and that's what I was heat treating and making my first knives with. Yeah. All that little Harbor Freight 1x30 and the thinnest high carbon stock I could find, because I thought that was what made a good knife, is super thin. Ugh.
So all of your knives are fillet knives to start out with? Nice.
Basically.
Do you still have your first knife?
Oh, yeah. There was the other iteration. That one worked way less.
I can see why. Are you on like a wet seabed that just like it just lost water level?
That was my driveway, and I had like went out there with like one of those propane torches too to like dry it off and everything. It was stupid. And then one of my friends gave me a little horseshoe forge, and that's what I worked on for another while. Yeah, there it is. But yeah, I don't have my first knife. I gave it to my step grandpa, who has it proudly displayed in his whiskey cabinet, which is kind of cool. That was nice of him.
That is nice.
Yeah.
So it's still around.
It's still around.
Almost everyone I have interviewed on the podcast so far, at least knows where the first knife is.
Oh, it's important.
They either have it and they absolutely hate it, or I think it was Kurt Holland that was like, "Oh, I love mine.
What?
I love the fact that that's where I started and this is where I'm at now, and it reminds me hard work." And he had a very like sentimental way of talking about it. I think it was Kurt. Might have been Will though. But Kurt lost his.
Really?
Yeah, and he was like real bummed about it.
Yeah, I don't have a sentimental feeling about my first knife. I'm like, damn, that was garbage. I don't want to see that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like just finally to the point where I'm like okay with actual human beings seeing my knives.
I nothing that I make, I ever want to, it's like, okay, that's done. It's gone.
Yeah.
Like the fun part about blacksmithing to me, which is why I'm not good at anything, is because the fun part for me is number one, the community. It's number one. I do forge alone. I will stay after work and work on stuff by myself. It's not like I only do it if people are watching or anything like that. But I love forging with people.
Really?
And it's 50% the what I learn from them, and it's the shared knowledge, and it's also 50% just the camaraderie. And without making it sound too heavy, because it's not this deep, but it's like you're a little less alone for those 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's really hard in this life to find people that share common values, that share an ethos, that share an outlook that you share.
Right.
So even in that forge, if you were to break up and spend, 4 hours, and everybody would disagree about things and whatever. But while you're in the forge, you're all working on getting better or finishing a project.
Yeah.
So you're aligned, right? And I really like that. I really like people aligning over what makes us the same and celebrating that.
I agree.
And just finding a common bond and a common place for everybody to be accepted. So
I agree.
I really like that. So the finished product to me is almost
moot.
Yeah. Right. It doesn't matter what I'm working on. It doesn't matter what I'm making, because through forging, I've got Nathan, who's my absolute best friend in the world, who is recently the benefactor of my life insurance. So if anybody out there wants Nathan to be rich, come after your boy.
I'm going to make sure Nathan gets a little bit richer.
Come after your boy.
I'm going to make sure.
Daddy wants the long sleeve.
Oh, no.
Please don't, actually. I just started having fun in life.
Oh, jeez.
But I've met Nathan. I've met you and Evan and everybody that works here. But I've also got to go and spend time with people like Kurt and Bill Corey and Rob Huff and people that were are big in kind of the Indiana blacksmithing. Jeff down in Southern Indiana, who is an absolute genius, and I can't even say the word genius. I get to meet these people that just share knowledge and share community and share their love with you, right?
Right.
Steve King's another good one. We talk about the guys from the IBA all the time, but even meeting like Lynn from Abana last year at SOFA, he wanted us to come to the which we are going to Abana this year, but he wanted us to come out and present and stuff, and he spent probably 10, 15 minutes just talking to me about our forging presses and what we do and how excited he is about, what's going on. And then he was like, by the way, here's my email. I want you to come out to Abana. But it wasn't in like a schmoozy way.
Right.
It was like I'm really excited for you guys and I don't want to be schmoozy. So I'm just going to mention this at the end.
That's like the fun part about this community to me is everyone's so excited. And the egos are so just not there. You know what I mean? Everyone's just so psyched to make cool stuff, be a part of something where they're just hammering hot metal. It's simple and happy. I like it.
Yeah, it's not a hard community to join.
No.
It's not a hard community to be active in. There's a lot of IBA meetings I went to that didn't even involve forging. It was just a bunch of people hanging out.
Nice.
And they all happen to forge, and it's inside of a forge. But, you know, we never lit it. We just had some donuts, caught up, you know. There's also, there's like a weird similarity between a lot of the blacksmith groups that I've been exposed to. I won't say involved with because I'm not like active in them, but you know, I've gotten to talk to a bunch of people in a bunch of different blacksmithing groups, and it's almost like church for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right. Where they come and it becomes a community that they all agree upon, and you know, they have a president that they elect and they decide that this guy's in charge. And if that guy says that you can't swing a hammer with your left hand if you're right-handed, then they all say, well, now you can't swing a hammer when you're left-handed. And that's the only problem that I've seen come out of blacksmithing, in my opinion, at least, is it's super easy to get connected. It's super easy to stay active. But it's always really funny to me to see people that come from, you know, the church of this guy compared to the church of this guy. And it's like, you know, there are people, I made all of drifts, punches, chisels, everything was H13 for a long time because that's what Nathan did.
Right.
So I come from the church of Nathan, which is H13 friendly. And there are a lot of people that are from other point of views that will...
Are they anti-H13?
Well, yeah, you never use H13 for something you strike.
Uh-oh.
It's a very common thing that people believe, and that's fine. If they because I see their point, there are risks involved. Yeah, H13 will splinter for sure.
You got to be so
you
strong,
have to
though.
Yeah, you have to dress your tools and take care of them, and there could be more to that I don't know, but you know, the only issue that I've ever had within blacksmithing has been like, it never fundamental. It's always been just kind of like catty, like I'm going to bust you about this and you're going to bust me about this. Yes. And it's like, well, why do you do it that way? And well, because that's the way I learned. And they're like, oh, it's so wrong. That's the wrongest thing you could do. You could never be more wrong about it. And it's like, but at the end of the day, we all end up at the same fire. We all end up, you know, so nice. That was a really long, weird rant. I do that at least once an episode. And then I'll stay awake tonight thinking about it, where it's like, I hope nobody takes that personally. Somebody's going to like look back and be like, I talked to that guy at Sofa and I told him I didn't like H13.
Look at you out here making enemies on the podcast.
And I completely will not, I don't recall any conversations I've had with anybody specifically. The reason that I remember that is because Rob is doing a class with the IBA and we asked him what kind of material he wanted, and we asked him if H13 was okay. And he said, I would never strike H13. So that's why that was fresh in my mind, was because Rob specifically said that. Rob, I don't have any problems with your point of views. I love you with my whole heart. You are a great human being. I just don't come from that point of view.
What steel did we order instead?
He really likes 4140.
Oh, okay.
4140. I don't know really what else he uses. I haven't forged a lot with Rob on... Every time I've been around him forging, it's just been like tinkering stuff, like at an IBA meeting or him like teaching something or striking for somebody. So I've never really like gotten to forge with.
He's like
Rob.
the tool making specialist with that works like power hammer mostly, right? Is that what I'm thinking of?
Rob has a power hammer. You want to pull up Rob's?
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm putting the right face.
He actually has Clifton Ralph's Little Giant.
Little Giant?
Yeah.
Is that the one we made, the 50 ton? Or no, that was
the Little
cutie.
Giant. Little Giant is a brand of mechanical power hammer.
Oh, I haven't seen those. No.
That's Rob.
Oh,
That's Rob. Hey, Rob.
Okay. Oh, I have seen him around the shop. Okay.
Yeah, Rob's a good guy. Big fan of Rob.
I'm so intrigued by tool makers. I just don't. I can't wrap my head around it. Like, you mostly make tools. It seems like
I mostly make tools. Yeah, and I will make one tool. Excuse me. Learn how to make it and then move on to the next one. So I wouldn't ever call myself a tool making expert.
You made the punch that I use every single day, and then you got mad at me
because you are a knife maker. And you ground it to shiny.
Yeah, I ground it to shiny. I put a bunch of little bevels in it. It was cool, man.
Yeah, I also put bevels in it.
Kinda. I think we almost fight about this punch so frequently.
It was so cool looking. I made the coolest looking punch.
Now it's more cooler, though.
And no, your grinds aren't even straight or flat.
Well, because neither was the tool.
But it was pretty when I made it. It was functional, and
it's still functional.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
We're gonna fight.
So what, now that I've kind of talked myself into probably getting canceled by the blacksmithing community,
A daily occurrence.
what do you have to look forward to? I know that you said you're not at the point where you want to be with your knife making. I know that you've been asking to hang out and make hammers every couple weeks when, I try to let you know when we stay back, but you've asked about making hammers and stuff. What are you looking forward to? Are you trying to get more into tool making, or was it just?
I really like the idea of making axes. Hammers, I kind of just want to know how to do. So I'm like, crap, I need this hammer and I don't have to go buy it. I can just make it, But ideally, I want to, I've really liked the axes so far. So I want to get more into that. But my end goal is I want to be a mastersmith one day. I just finally joined the, ABS? Holy crap.
Yeah.
My
ABS.
favorite
Blade Society.
My
Yes.
favorite thing about you is that once you have any working knowledge and connection to other knife makers, the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
But
I'm
you
excited.
genuinely, and this is not, I'm not saying this to like talk irreverently of you. You have no connection to other knife makers.
No, I don't.
And, and you're just out here trying your hardest.
Yeah.
And learning from Instagram posts and from YouTube tutorials. And you still make a very good quality knife at the end of the
Thank
day.
you.
There are things you can improve on, and we talk about it when you come up and show me knives and stuff like that. And even me, as not a knife maker, am able to give you some critiques. But you genuinely, it's not like you're going through the ABS curriculum and putting out this work. You're doing this all from your own head and from
Yeah.
your own understanding.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing about you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've definitely tried to make more connections with knife makers recently. Like, very hard. I've met some really cool people. Like Gentle Giant. He's such a sweetie. I talked to him. He's been giving me so much info. But yeah.
Paul, right?
Yes, Paul.
Gentle
Sweet.
Giant
Yes,
Forge.
sweet, super sweet guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my end goal is I want to make stuff like Wimbrin. I want the gold inlay. I want fine stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Paul.
Super nice guy. Highly recommend following him.
Buy lots of knives from him. He has
Yeah.
2 beautiful children and needs to support them.
Yeah, genuinely one of the sweetest
The
dudes in the
only
community.
thing I know about children is they eat way too much.
And they need to cut back on that.
Yeah.
Disgusting things.
All of my nieces and nephews out eat me.
I should have said that.
And they're always sticky.
Oh, that is the grossest
Yeah.
part.
Like, how can I give you fresh broccoli and you make it sticky? That's weird.
That's supposed to not be sticky at all. It's like,
How did you make this?
do they just secrete a mucus out of their skin? I really don't understand.
Probably. Yeah. Probably. So that's who you're learning from. You're learning from buddies and
Yeah, buddies, and just watching Jason Knight a couple weeks ago, coming in on the weekend and just watching his mad genius self do stuff was super cool. But yeah, I'm working my way towards the journeyman. Just started, so I'm 3 years out.
yeah.
But yeah, that's my goal one day. I don't want to be that guy that's, putting out 150 knives a year. That I don't want my knife to be in like everybody's hands. I want to maybe make like a knife, a sword a year, but it's like an insane sword that you don't want to touch. That's my goal.
So are you looking at not making it your full-time thing and just making
Probably.
it? Okay.
Yeah. I'd like to open my own forge one day, like half shop, half forge somewhere. And then I can that'll buy me time to work on stuff whenever I want to. But yeah,
Sure.
probably would never be a full-time thing for me.
I'm a big fan of not like you have to have the thing that relieves stress, right? And when your passion becomes your job, I think a lot of people really struggle with that.
Yeah.
So, you're super into knife making or even, darts, like whatever. And then you start that as a job and your passion becomes your industry. It's really hard. Like I would never make hammers for a living. I would never go
Right.
into production, axe making, or, like Dave Custer at Fiery Forge makes tongs and hammers and they're wonderful.
they're
they're
fantastic.
great. The Fiery Furnace Tour.
Whoa.
I'm having Strongs.
Strongs.
The fiery furnace tongs in
Oh, you were so close.
fiery
Forge.
furnace tongs. What am I saying wrong?
You're good.
Nailed it.
Fiery furnace tongs.
Forge.
It's Forge.
Right, I understand that the last part of his name is Forge.
Well, it's the name.
It doesn't seem like you do.
Dave's tongs.
Dave's tongues. That actually
Dave's
works.
tongs are my favorite in the shop. We got to, I met him at Sofa last year, and then we got to spend a lot of time with him at the shop. I am also now incredibly blown away at the human being that he is.
Also, lots of children go support.
Also,
him.
lots
Really?
of children support them. His kids were so excited about just getting business cards.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
I gave him a couple business cards while we were talking, and then they came up like an hour later, and one of them was really bummed out. I was like, "Hey, bud, what's going on?" He was like, "I lost my business card." I was like, "I'll get you another one, no worries." And he comes back like 5 minutes later. He's like, "Can I get one for my mom too?" And like, dude was just like so excited. They were like running around with him, like holding him. They were like the
They're
cutest kids ever.
Big
But
business. Big
yeah.
business.
Anywho, I could never do that. I could never do what Dave does because my release, and when I've had a long week, when I've had like stressors in my life, it's like going into the forge and working on a project and not stopping until I'm done, and it gives me some sort of completion. So if I was doing, say, a batch of 50 tongs that I have to restock on my shelf, and I hit a snag in my production, and that means I have to make 47 of them tomorrow because I only got through 3, then I don't get that completion.
Yeah.
So that's probably a lot of another reason why I'm not good at it, is because I only start projects that I know I can complete in like a 3 to 4 hour window.
Oh, geez. It would be amazing if I could complete any of my projects in a slightly resembling 3 to 4.
You can
hour
ask
window.
Evan, if I don't finish what I'm doing, like when we started, if I don't finish what I'm doing, it'll never get touched again. I tell Evan all the time, he's like, "Hey man, you staying after?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll be after for like an hour." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. I got some stuff I got to do. I got to finish up a couple hammers." And he'll be like, "Okay. Hey, you staying after, Francis?" I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that. I'm not starting in the middle of something."
It's like, what is that?
Lame.
Oh, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, but I think a lot of times people are really, really skilled, really, really talented, but they should keep it as a part-time job.
Yeah.
Because it stops being a creative outlet and a release, and it starts becoming their job, and it actually adds stress, and then it makes you kind of hate the thing you love. Now, there's also people like Logan and Nathan who can work in the same industry that is stress relieving for them, face those frustrations, and then by the end of the day still have a smile on their face.
Right.
And I don't understand that.
Yeah, no.
I can't do that. I love forging, and I love what I do, but the only savior that I have in working inside of my passion field is the fact that I am 17 different places at once.
That is so helpful.
I'm service, I'm customer sales. I help with Evan on the website. I help with Harley and shipping.
Help is a strong word.
Help is a very strong word. I still don't know how I added quantities to those. I think that was a bug. It was a glitch in the matrix.
Oh, no.
But if I think I could handle assembly. I think I could do assembly all day, but I couldn't forge something all day. The other thing
That
too
would
is
be
when you're
wild.
working in production and you say, "Hey guys, I'm going to make 50 of this," you have to make 50 of that.
Right.
And there's no room for like, "Oh, chooch that a little bit. Turns out this is going to be a little bit longer of a peen," or, you can't hide your mistakes.
Exactly.
Which is why all of nothing I make looks the same. It's because I mistaked and I fixed it, right? So like Gnome is a great example of he does the same thing 100 times in a row and it's perfect.
I can't wrap my head around that.
Yeah, I can't do
I'm
that.
so jealous of people that can just do that. Because after I do 2 of the same thing, I'm like, why am I doing this again?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this?
Right.
Like, I guess it's different for production. That's kind of helpful here though, because I know we're worried because like I'm in charge of welding so many blueprints, like a shocking number of blueprints, but it's so much better than me coming in and just welding cheeks on a C-frame all day.
Yeah.
I can bounce around. I can weld 20 different things in one day, 3 different processes, 4 different wire sizes. I love that. And I like welding just enough. I'm not passionate about it. So it's okay with it being my full-time job.
Okay.
It's nice.
That's an interesting, yeah, because I kind of get what you're saying. I hate welding. I'm afraid of electricity.
Yes.
I'll look into the camera. I bought boots that are made for electricians because I'm so afraid of I bought their composite toe. They're like the anti-shock sole. Like I did a boo-boo on a induction forge and blew it up.
Oh.
And so I was already afraid of electricity. And then when I did the boo-boo for the past like month now, even like plugging something in that's not 110, I'm like,
You should see one. So I messed up my finger a couple weeks ago, and I've had to have Francis come help me with things from time to time. And you should see him coming into my station with all the masculinity and confidence of a 6-year-old girl on her birthday.
Yep.
I'm just like, I need help with these things that are very dangerous. And you're like, no, not happening.
yeah, see, I can do the masculine stuff. It's the dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
So one thing that we have to do is we have to cut the cheeks apart. So the slide carriage, which holds the top die, and the bottom die receiver, we weld those together to make sure they're flat, they line up, all the fun stuff, and then we have to cut them, right? Mm-hmm. But when you're cutting them apart, you have a 1/4-inch cutoff wheel. Say, right? This is false, but you know, the sizes will be wrong, but you guys will get it. You know, say you have a 1/4 inch of cutoff wheel, you have about 5/16 of room between your cheeks. Mm-hmm. So the entire time you're cutting, your cutoff wheel, where you're actually cutting is actually buried.
Yep.
You can't see it.
Yep.
And you have to rock it and cut under and then cut your path and then rock under and cut your path. And I've used cutoff wheels quite a bit, and I've got no problems with cutoff wheels. I have extreme problems with cutoff wheels. I cannot see what they're doing.
Oh man, I love it.
I have extreme problems with that. Now, did I cut it and was it fairly straight?
Yeah.
Was I confident? No, not at all.
No.
But if I have to do it again, I will be.
Yeah.
I've also had cutoff wheels explode.
Oh, yeah.
So,
you know, weirdly enough, I haven't had one explode doing that.
Really?
It seems like it would be like the most dangerous thing I could possibly be doing, but
yeah, it's rough. It's not fun. But
we can do the RoboCop mask, you know.
You're not wrong. I did a lot of stupid things with Nathan in our early 20s and almost got hurt a lot. Yeah. And now I'm very precautious.
And now you guys pay me, and I'm the one that gets hurt.
Yep. Now that doesn't. It's power tools and electricity and stuff like that. It was where I'm like pretty cautious about. Mm-hmm. If it comes to climbing, I'm in. I'm
hell yeah.
Yeah, like I can climb all day. Heights don't bother me. Installing the new pallet racking and them not being bolted down and being on one row of pallet racking that is not attached to any other, and it's like swaying while I'm up there because Gage and Harley are trying to like nail stuff down on the bottom shelves while I'm trying to just put in plywood. Like
the Mankeys were mankying.
Yeah, it's not until after I get down that I was like, oh, that was a little stressful. But there are certain things that I do not like.
Yeah.
And I will always admit that out loud and let you know that I hate you for cutting your finger off because now I have to do stuff that I pay you to do.
I thought it was fun making you do some of the stuff you haven't had to do in a while.
Yeah, that's fair. I've been a very, very desk boy lately.
Yeah. It's going to be fun because, just be like, remember all the danger I do during reviews? And you'll be like,
I've already done my reviews. I've done my reviews in January. So I had no recollection of
Unbelievable.
any of that.
Unbelievable.
All right. Well, Josh, Evan, are we at time? Are we good to go?
Cool.
All right. It's been a struggle talking to you for this long.
I know.
Everything about you makes me sick. Is there anything we're plugging besides the CBA? I will be at April 17th through 21st. I don't know when the actual event is. I think it's the 18th through the 20th, but my trip is the 17th through the 21st. We will be at Abana's 50th anniversary in Johnstown. We will be at Blade Show. We will be at SOFA. What else are we doing, Evan?
We've got classes coming up. After this comes out, the next class will be Zachary Herberholtz's Steel and Leather Stool. Get your dad signed up for the Father's Day Forged Grill set with Derek Melton. And then we've got Mareko Mamasi coming out doing some Damascus shenanigans later in the summer. So go over to coolschool.com and check those out. I think that should be it.
Guys, get involved. Yep.
You can also follow Josh, Dirt Steel Forge.
Yeah.
Do that.
Please do. Look, I got the scary numbers, my followers. I'm so excited.
Guys, get involved. Check the website. We do IBA meetings every last Saturday of the month. We will be at the Tipton annual IBA conference. We'd love to have you out. We'd love to see you in any facet. If you're local, if you're not local, come hang out with us. We're lonely. Otherwise, I have to talk to Josh. So,
Yeah, what a shame that is.
love you guys. Bye.
Bye, guys. Sick. Now you can go poop out all your expired.